There's no place like the Cube. Family, it's your favorite queer radio personality, Anna DeShawn, and this is Queer News, your favorite weekly news pod where race and sexuality meet politics, culture, and entertainment. Last week, I received a comment on Spotify. Every episode we publish, Spotify now automatically asks a question. What do you think of this episode? And I very rarely ever get any interaction, but we did last week from a listener, and I wanted to share it with you. So Stephanie said, this was a beautifully produced episode, and I'm so happy to see Queer News growing and getting better constantly. Come on, Stephanie. Boom, 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 boom. Thank you so much for dropping me a note. And for all of our Spotify listeners, please reply to the weekly question. I would love to hear what you think of the episodes. I see that we can do polling questions there too, and so I'll start doing those. And I would love to hear from you and interact with you so much more. Thanks, Stephanie. Now, if you enjoyed this here episode, think about joining the QCrew. The QCrew is our queer news community, and your reoccurring monthly support will help supplement the cost of this podcast hosting, editing, marketing, PR, travel. Child, I can go on and on, okay? But if you believe in the work we do, if you believe LGBTQ stories need to be amplified, if you love and respect how I report on the news and tell our stories, join the QCrew. I also want to welcome Bob. Yes, Bob is our newest member to the QCrew, so welcome, my friend. I'm happy you're here. Now, it's your turn. If you are not part of the QCrew, join us and join Bob, okay? A link is in the show notes. Now for the news. We speak Chyna Long's name today. She was a Black trans woman who was murdered in Milwaukee. Kalvinn Garcia pleaded guilty to committing a federal hate crime against a Seattle gay bar. The NHL has banned Pride Nights. And 2 trans women will be competing in the Miss Universe pageant. Let's go. If you're hearing this, it means we didn't sell this ad space. If you're hearing this, it means running ads on our podcast actually can work. You see what I did there? You see this real life example? You got an event, do you have an organization? Do you got something you need to get the word out about? We got rates starting as low as $100. Check the link in our show notes for more information. Hey, I'm Anna.
And I'm Adele.
And this is the Head Nod, Season 1, Black Life at a PWI.
It's an unfiltered take on Black life in predominantly white spaces.
In the process, we learned some things, especially that music, Chile.
Tune in every Tuesday for a new episode wherever you listen to your favorite podcast.
You are now tuned in to higher frequencies. We do this frequently. Turn your radio station to E3 for that decency. Listen to great music and the latest movement. Safe listening for anyone that's tuned in. Who you waking up to? Anna DeShawn, QCrew and friends. It's that real talk. Online radio with the spins. You caught up in traffic, frustrated. Just check in with E3 to shift your vibrations and get elevated. That's queer radio done right. Choose to be yourself. That's the only way to live life, and that's how it's done here. Just know y'all tuned in to the greatest. Ain't no competition. We ain't worried about the other stations. Check.
Family, our first story today is rather sad and heartbreaking. We speak Chyna Long's name today. I came across this story on TikTok. I'm just doing what I do. I'm scrolling through, and I see a Black man crying, weeping on camera. And it just instantly made me stop. And I began to read the caption. And I won't read what it said verbatim because he misgenders her. But we know family dynamics are hard. But he says basically that they've killed his child. And I begin to read the caption, and he writes, "They out here targeting transgender and gay people." And my heart just aches for him because he's publicly grieving the loss of his child. And so I go to Google and I begin to learn about Chyna Long. Chyna was a 31-year-old Black trans woman from Milwaukee, but had been living in Chicago for about the last 8 years. She was home, reconnecting with her family and friends. And all we know right now is that she was found murdered at around 7:45 in the morning. They do have a suspect in custody, a 29-year-old man, but because no charges have been filed, they won't release his name or any other information at this time. Her family held a vigil for her to remember her, and they just talk about how she was unapologetic. They talk about how much joy she brought to everybody's life, how she could dance and she would teach people how to dance, and just how she was loving who she was. Her father, Jonathan, said this: "As a father, I wish I would have asked more questions. I should have been close. Even though I know she knows I accepted her lifestyle, I feel like I could have done more." We've heard this before, haven't we? A parent's regret around not knowing how to fully embrace their child. My heart goes out to Chyna's family, to those that loved her, to those that knew her. And if you're able, they've started a GoFundMe to help supplement costs, and I've included that link in the show notes. Chyna Long, we speak your name today. Family, our next story is coming out of Seattle, Washington. And I found this story on the Bay Area Reporter. Have y'all ever heard of the Bay Area Reporter? Well, it's one of my many sources that I use to find stories for the Queer News Podcast. The Bay Area Reporter has been serving the San Francisco Bay Area LGBTQ community since 1971. Well, they've been reporting about this story, and let me tell you about it. 3 years ago, Kalvinn Garcia, who was 26 at the time, pled guilty to 1 count of committing a federal hate crime. He admits going into the alleyway behind Queer Bar, that's the name of the nightclub, and setting fire to contents inside of a dumpster in hopes of actually setting fire to the bar. He admits that seeing a sign that said queer made him really upset. He says, "I think it's wrong that we have a bunch of queers in our society." He actually said this to a stranger. This is what he said. He said, "I set fire because I wanted to trap and hurt people." Tessa Gorman, the acting United States Attorney for the Western District of Washington, said this: "Mr. Garcia endangered the lives of more than 100 people because of his hatred for members of our LGBTQI+ community. We work diligently with our federal, state, and local partners to investigate and prosecute acts of hatred against people because of their sexuality or gender identity. This work is a priority because the effort of these hate crimes can linger in communities and traumatize the members of the targeted community for weeks, months, or years after." Tessa, you could not be more right. This scares the mess out of me that someone can see the word queer and say, "I'm going to set this dumpster on fire so that I can trap and hurt people." Well, 3 years later, family, he's now been sentenced to 4 years in prison for committing a federal hate crime. I'm always so conflicted with these stories because I don't think jail is going to fix his hate. And what happens after he gets out? Does this happen again? Family, the world we're living in right now is pretty scary, and I want y'all to stay safe out there, okay? All right now. That was a lot, right? Yes, so I think this is a good time for us to take a little break, take a breather. And when we get back, I got some more culture and entertainment news, all right? So just stay close.
I'm Darren.
And I'm Esther.
And this is Second Sunday, a podcast about Black queer folk finding, keeping, and sometimes losing faith.
This season's full of candid conversations. We're talking to theologians, artists, activists, and community members living at the intersections of faith, spirituality, and identity.
The Saints ain't ready for this,
but we're still going to talk about it.
Second Sunday starts October 4th. Find it wherever you get podcasts.
Second Sunday is a Cube original podcast and is part of the PRX Big Questions Project.
What has 144 players, 12 teams, and one league that you should tap into? If you guessed the WNBA, you already know. If you didn't, we'll get you up to speed real quick. My name is Money, and this is Rebound Revolution, bringing you the revolutionary on and off the court happenings in the W. Join me and a special guest each week as we watch them work. Listen to Rebound Revolution wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to the show, family. Now, in sports news, I want to talk about the NHL today, the National Hockey League. I don't think I have ever reported about the National Hockey League on this podcast. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but today it is not a good thing. All major sports teams do themed nights: breast cancer awareness, Hispanic Heritage Month, Pride Nights. Well, Pride Nights have been quite controversial lately, haven't they? Well, it seems last year, the NHL received a handful of complaints from players who did not want to participate in the Pride Night. Well, instead of just allowing those players to not participate, they've opted for a sweeping ban against on-ice themed night gear. Yeah, they sent a memo out to all 32 teams saying that there's a new guidance barring any on-ice uniform or gear used in warm-ups from including any themed night celebration. So let me just give y'all an idea what this could look like for the National Hockey League. This can look like players not being able to wear rainbow sweaters or use multicolored tape on their hockey sticks during Pride Night. And these were ways in which they showed their support of the LGBTQ community. And because these handful of players didn't want to, now no one can. Make it make sense. Outsports, another one of my sources, has called this new NHL directive, quote, the most stifling, anti-LGBTQ policy any pro sports league in North America has ever issued. Yo, I think that's a designation you really don't want. We'll see if there's any pushback from people who are actually in the NHL, but if you've been listening to this podcast, you know that this has been a trend. A handful of people have a problem, and then their problem now affects everybody else. Something really has to change about this, don't you think? For our last story today in culture and entertainment, I'm going to end on an up note, okay? Because it's been a little bit of a tough week. In positive news, for the Miss Universe pageant this year, there will be 2 transgender women competing, and I am so proud of them. Congratulations, Marina out of Portugal and Ricky out of the Netherlands. Marina became the first transgender woman to win Miss Portugal just last week, which gets her into the Miss Universe contest later this year. She's a flight attendant, and she thanked her supporters for being positive and empowering. Ricky is 22, and she became the first trans woman to be crowned Miss Netherlands. And I love what she had to say. She said, yes, I'm trans, and I want to share my story, but I'm also Ricky, and that's what matters to me. Yes, let them know. You're more than just your identity, okay? Now, she experienced a lot of hate speech online, and she said she's just ignoring it for now and just trying to focus on the good. That's right, Ricky. Focus on what's good. You are good. I am so excited for them. The Miss Universe pageant will take place on November 18th. And so, if it's your thing, make sure to tune in, okay? Congratulations, Marina and Ricky. Family, it's time for the word of the day. Anna's word for today is visualize. I want you to visualize the desires of your heart. Really see them. Walk through the moment. Talk about the feelings you have in that moment. Be there. You have to be able to see it in order for your mind to really believe it's possible. When I wake up in the morning and go into my prayer corner, one part of my practice is to visualize how my day is going to go. As an entrepreneur, quite literally, my day has the ability to go all off the rails. I have truly released control that I know what is going to happen in my day. All I know is what I would like to see happen in my day. But what I do manifest for myself is the day moving along with ease as I transition from meeting to meeting. I see divine interactions that are a blessing to me and all those I interact with throughout my day. I see smiling faces and I see joy. This is a practice. I also use visualization to see what I want in my future. I love my vision boards because of its extra enforcement. So begin seeing yourself exactly where you want to be. And if you truly believe it and focus on it daily, it will absolutely become your reality. As we are sitting in Q4 and about to close out this year, which is still mind-blowing to say, I would love for you to revisit the goals that you set back in January and see if you have manifested and visualized what you wanted your year to be. And if not, guess what? If you're listening to this podcast, you got another opportunity to get it right. I love y'all. Till next week. Peace. If you enjoyed what you heard, rate and review us inside your favorite podcasting app. This podcast is written and produced by me, Anna DeShawn. Podcast editing by Experience J of Just Listen Media. And brought to you by E3 Radio, your #1 queer radio station playing queer music and reporting on queer news in high rotation.